Days turned into restless nights. The ceasefire remained outwardly intact, but beneath surface calm, preparations and anxieties grew. In underground bunkers near Isfahan, Iranian generals reviewed contingency plans for enriching uranium and dispersing missile systems deeper into the desert. Engineers worked in shifts, modifying older centrifuge designs to be more difficult to detect and harder to destroy. In Jerusalem's sky, the Israel Defense Forces deployed strategic UAV patrols over the Mediterranean and the Golan Heights. Pilots checked gear for long-range refueling missions. Inside war rooms, analysts compared satellite feeds, tracking every convoy rolling south from Tehran and every naval vessel threading the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Gulf monarchies edged toward alignment. Saudi officials invited US diplomats to Riyadh for emergency talks aimed at preventing Gulf escalation. The UAE finalized contracts for new missile defense batteries. Even Iran's neighbors, Oman and Kuwait, reviewed safeguard protocols for their airspaces and energy pipelines. Inside Iranian cities, ordinary life masked growing tension. Shops displayed strategic goods, canned food, generators, medicine. Families bought preheat sleeping systems. Neighborhood groups trained children in shelter drills. The energy authorities began a program of rolling blackouts, citing maintenance, while citizens watched for signs of subtle sabotage. In Haifa, residents faced silence punctuated by drone activity overhead. Hospitals conducted emergency simulations at night. Schools practiced evacuation drills amid rumors of missile drills. In a quiet cafe near the port, older patrons debated whether Iran would pause or strike again. Their voices hushed, eyes fixed on TV screens showing intermittent news updates from abroad. Elsewhere, Israel's intelligence services extended a hush-hush campaign to recruit dissidents and nuclear technicians. Safe houses in Europe and Canada filled with informants who carried encrypted storage devices. Blueprints, code fragments, satellite shots, evidence tailored to paint a clearer picture of Iran's covert programs. The Iranian regime, sensing the thaw, crafted a parallel narrative. Its television networks ran pro-war features, consoling the public and urging unity. Posters appeared overnight in Tehran's metro stations celebrating resistance. But internal leaks, shared online via VPNs, showed black market prices rising and people panicking over rising costs. In Jerusalem, the cabinet convened again. The intelligence hall had shifted positions. Arclight, once a matter for discussion, now had a conditional order. The script called for airstrikes, no ground troops, aimed at underground enrichment tunnels while avoiding civilian casualties. The next step hinged on one final piece, verifying that centrifuge activity had recommenced at scale. Diplomatic channels flickered. Norway and Switzerland offered to host backchannel discussions. Iran's pragmatic minister signaled interest, but warned that any hint of bombing would end all trust. American, British, and European envoys worked toward a text that would guarantee inspections in exchange for partial sanction relief. But the deal remained unsigned, waiting for one last trigger. In the background, hacker teams silently probed military networks on both sides, probing defenses and planting false warnings. A message appeared briefly on an Iranian missile control net claiming that Israel had launched. It lasted seconds before disappearing, but the alarm was real, causing radar systems to briefly shift. Israeli cyber teams tracked the origin and recommended counterstrikes, but the code was lost, ambiguous. At sea, a tanker near Bahrain lost GPS signals for several minutes. It later reported the blackout may have been caused by electronic interference. US sailors aboard destroyers nearby began emergency procedures but found no missile. Still, tensions tightened as every ship, every convoy became a symbol. Civil society marched quietly. In Beirut, a rally demanded Hezbollah stand down. In Tehran, another demanded transparency from the supreme leader. Both were small, cautious. Still, even these whispers carried weight, suggesting that the population on both sides had begun to feel the burden of potential war. In Washington and Brussels, national security councils debated. The intelligence supported immediate action. Diplomats argued for a final push for inspections. Oil traders fretted publicly about $100 plus prices. Military planners reassured markets that calibrations were in place to avoid escalation beyond precision strikes. And then came the whisper, this time from an anonymous Israeli official. Iran had activated a new array of centrifuges inside a hardened mountainside near Qazvin. The signals were weak, but even the hint was enough. It pushed the arc-light strike back to the top of the agenda. By sunrise, both sides had entered a holding pattern. Bombers,